Alright, welcome back. Today we're going to be going over sketch mode, which can be used for floors, roofs, and ceilings. Even though for this lesson we're only going to be covering floors, all the principles are the same and can be used for any of the different categories. So, let's go ahead and create a wall. But this time, instead of doing it in line mode, we're going to go ahead and do it in rectangle mode. Alright, so let's go ahead and make our box one corner to the other. Doesn't matter what size it is. And you can see over in the properties window that it's a 20-foot unconnected wall just like before. Now, when we go to add in the floor plate, one of the things that people always ask me is, does the floor go to the outside wall or the inside wall? And really that's going to depend on what type of construction you're doing. If it's going to be on a platform, if it's residential. Some floors might extend all the way out and have the walls sort of resting on top. Others might be like skyscrapers, where the floors extend out to the wall, but the wall itself is outside the floor. So ultimately, the answer is going to depend on your project and what your needs are at the moment. So we'll go up and we'll click on floor. And you'll notice that it's gone into this sort of green mode. We still have the modify tab like normal, and you have all your different draw features, but now we have this check mark and X. Those represent a cancel and a finish mode. So this is really important to notice, because a lot of students, they'll hit the architecture tab or they'll hit escape to try and go back to what they were doing, and it won't work. Everything still stays grayed out. This is because when you're in sketch mode, even if you hit escape or hit the architecture tab, until you have hit the X or the check mark, it's not going to be able to follow through on any of your commands. So this is going to hold true for floors, for roofs and ceilings, sometimes even stairs. So if you ever hit architecture and everything is grayed out, look over to the right for that green Modify Create Floor Boundary menu. You have to exit that mode in order to continue working on other parts of your project. So we're going to go ahead and click back on that Modify Create Floor Boundary. We're not done in here yet. Go ahead and draw a rectangle, and you'll notice these locks show up. Sometimes it's good to lock floors to walls. So let's see what happens when we do that. If I go ahead and hit lock on the left side there, and then the green check mark, you'll see that the floor plate has been made now. Now let's see what this looks like in our 3D mode. This isn't going to be an option that you can see under floors, ceilings, or elevations. We can get it to show up in a couple of different ways. First, at the very top of the screen, you can hit that house at the topmost toolbar. That's your default 3D view button. Or you can go to the View tab and hit the 3D View button. So no matter which way you do it, the 3D view will come up, and you'll see on the left in the project browser that we now have a 3D view option. So you can run your mouse over the floor plate, and you see it's there. If you want to move around it, you can use the steering wheel. Just click this button, and the steering wheel pops up. Now there's a better way to do this. If you don't want to use any of the keyboard shortcuts like I've shown you for doors or windows or walls, one that I always recommend my students learn is the one to pull up the steering wheel. All you have to do is press Shift and W, and the steering wheel appears instantly. And so now you can orbit around your object, you can zoom in and out of your object, you can pan around. You've got a ton of different options that you can use in 3D mode, all through this steering wheel. You can also click and grab a point on this navigation cube to move around your wall from a given pivot. Okay, so we went ahead and made the floor plate, but remember that we locked it to that wall. So if we go ahead and move that wall out, you'll see that the floor plate moves with it. Alright, let's try that again with another one of the walls, and you can see that the floor moves with it. Something to notice, and I feel like this has become more true in later versions, is when you make a command in sketch mode, Let's go back there real fast so we can see. Okay, and we're back to our floor plan. If you put a line over any sort of element, a wall, a door, anything while you're in sketch mode, then that element tends to lock on to the line, which makes things a lot easier when you're going through. Because now, if you're working on your project and your boss tells you to extend the wall, then just moving that wall out will adjust everything. Alright, so let's go back to floor plan view. And another common problem that my students have is when they're in this floor plan view, they can see the walls, but they don't actually see the floor plate. So how do we fix that? One way you can do it is if you hover the mouse over the wall that the floor is connected to, and you hit tab. If you keep on hitting tab, it'll cycle through different elements, and eventually floor generic will show up on the tooltip. Now you can just click and access your floor plate. The other way to do it is you can highlight everything, and then you can go up to the filter button on the top toolbar. So that filter button only shows up when you have multiple things selected. So we'll go ahead and hit it, and you see we have one floor plate and 4 walls. Note that if you have more than one object, you can't just select the one you want. So filter is really only useful in a case like this, where there's only one floor plate. But since we do here, we'll uncheck walls, hit OK, and now we have the floor plate selected. Now what I want to do is go back up to the toolbar and click Edit Boundary. This button will send us back into sketch mode, so we can make changes to the floor plate. Alright, so once we do that, you can see our floor plate and the 4 pink lines that form it. What I'm going to do is go ahead and delete those. But now what you can do is you can go up to either pick lines or pick walls. If you choose pick walls, you can go ahead and click on all 4 of the walls, and it goes ahead and selects the ones that you've created. Alright, so now that's one way that you're able to do it. I also want to show you the other way. Let's hit Control Z. That took us a little bit too far back. Okay, so the other way we can do it is with the Pick Lines command. So let's go ahead and click all 4 of the outside walls. Alright, and there we go. Now sometimes it's going to be a little more complex than just a box like this. If for some reason your lines don't connect, when you hit the check mark, then this error message you see is going to pop up. Error messages can sometimes be a little frustrating, especially if you're not really sure what they're trying to say. All this one is saying is that all lines must be closed in loops. This is saying that the highlighted lines are open on one end, and it shows you which ones are open. So remember from the previous lessons that if we want to join together 2 walls, we can use the trim command. So let's hit the trim, and we'll hit those 2 walls, and then that will close them up for us. And now when we hit the check mark, it will complete the floor plate. Now if we want to look at this floor plan in the 3D view, remember we can either hit the button all the way at the topmost toolbar, we can hit the 3D view button under the View tab, or because we've already accessed it, we can find it under the Project Browser window. Alright, so that's it right now for floors. In the next lesson, we're going to cover roofs, and you'll get a better idea of how to work with those in Revit.